Now, today, I want to talk about a theory that has a very low possibility of being correct. A sort of crackpot theory that I'm not expecting to be true in any way. But, it is a theory that intrigued me, a theory I found very, very interesting. The weird root of chapter 5 is insane. The player forced Chris to the lake, takes her arms, and the two of them together descend into the depths of the lake. The depths. As this happens, we can hear what almost sounds like Noel's leitmotif slowly but surely transforming into Gaster's leitmotif. Now, the information chapter 5 gives us about this disappearance is also very, very interesting. You see, Ascari found out that Des was lost to the Dark Worlds, and at the scene of the crime, a black shard. The exact material the Knight's weapon is made of. But wait, the Knight shouldn't exist yet, right? Every Knight candidate we know about should have come around way after the Des appearance. As for Des, it would have been her trapped in the Dark World that would cause her to lose her morals. She would have had to been in there for years, or at least days before transforming into the Dark Knight. Everyone else as a Knight candidate, Carol, Rudy, even Asriel. Their motivations would almost definitely be to find Des, or at least bring her back to life somehow. No, I take Ascari finding the Black Shard as evidence that the Knight was the very one to kidnap Des in the first place, as it did with both Undine and Ascari after her. So, who is the Knight then? It can't be a Dreamer Holiday, because any of their parents' motivations would not line up with the Knight's first appearance. It has to be someone new. Or, does it? This is expanding off of a relatively new Knight theory I've seen multiple people make. Noel and Chris take each other's hands and submerge themselves in the lake, breaking out of bounds, breaking out of the game. When they do this, their bodies fuse, they merge, and they become the Roaring Knight. When the timeline is reset, the Knight is unaffected. When all is said and done, they are trapped still as the Knight, and thus, a new character exists from the start of time watching everything transpire, forced to live with the consequences of their actions, forced to be the fallen star. I want to take this concept one step even further. I had a theory of my own, Roaring Delta. Roaring Delta is the theory that the three most mysterious demons we've seen throughout the series are united in a particular way. Gaster, Hell's father. The Knight, Hell's child. And Device friend, Hell's spirit. It is, admittedly, a theory made because it looks cool. The three of them together looked cool, and they were also the three we were most interested in learning more about. But they all seem tied to the shadow crystals, to deepest darkness, to imagery of hell and the number 666. Gaster is not just him, but another him. Another Chris? What if Chris was a biological male, once going by he/him pronouns, but in this new timeline, Chris goes by they/them pronouns? A different Chris, a different identity. It would make sense. Chapter 5 did have a lot of allusions to trans identity. Noel was the childhood crush, Chris's former love. And the love shared between them, this is the heart. Chris's heart, given to her as a gift. Perhaps, a rather forceful gift, a rather intrusive gift. Chris used to wear a red pair of horns, devil horns. Devil horns which show up as a darner and taunt Chris about the way they enjoy the weird root, knowing they could just say the devil made me do it. What an excuse, what an excuse. Chris has a save file set up before we even come into the game, but what type of person would Chris have been? Well, the Chris in this timeline seems to be nice. But this isn't our Chris we're talking about, is it? Another them. A young kid who perhaps, on their own, discovered they were the most determined entity in all the dog's creation, even beyond the power the dog limited his self-insert to. The most determined is able to reset history, to change fate, to play God. After all, it is the most determined that has control over the save files. And what did Flowey do when he got the chance to play God? Well, he did everything. He played every game, and lost every game. He read every book, and burned every book. He played every route, and finished every route. And so, what does a naive teenager do after discovering this power? Well, perhaps, every single thing they could think of. It doesn't matter if the characters got hurt, get traumatized, get permanently changed. There are no consequences. Chris can just reset, right? Put everything back the way it should be. So while Chris has this power, why no do everything they can? Everything they can. Maybe, oh, I don't know, give their soul to another? Just as the genocide route ends with Frisk giving their soul to Chara, a decision that cannot be undone. The weird route ends with Chris giving their soul to their lover, the girl next door, a woman permanently altered by abuse who will never give it back. Noel, forcing the weird route, forcing an unholy matrimony of human, dough, and unholy soul. I can 100% see Deltarune's unholy trinity being expressed in the terms of a romantic relationship as opposed to a father-child one. After all, it's a new story, different characters. Flowery is a different character than Flowey, vastly removed from Asriel, and so his gay relationship with Ascari isn't weird under that context. And so, they break out of bounds. Lost where the forest would grow, the two children followed the pointed tail, the heart of hell, into the deep lake. An amalgam, three entities whose ties to one another are eternal, eternally in the endless night, spawning titans out of their fear. It's eternally romantic, and eternally horrifying. Growing to adulthood, growing to eldritch age as the timeline transpired, growing old with the one they wed all those years ago. The Forbidden Path began with ice magic? And so, the Forbidden Path has already begun. When Ascari explains what happened when he found the night, the framing used is very similar to the weird route. The piercing reds which fully consume him. But why? I mean, Ascari never even touched the soul. Simple, the reds refer to the night. The piercing red which defines the night's existence, the weird route that led to its eternal damnation. Ascari was consumed by chasing the night, and, if it is foreshadowing for the soon police sacrifice, perhaps the weird route never truly ended. And so, when the roaring night makes the church dark world, their interpretation of the prophecy is expressed in Gaster's style of writing. But, the dark world prophecy is not the same as the light world prophecy. It's mixed up, the words are out of order, much the same as Ascari's conspiracy notes in the Chapter 5 castle. And what color are these panels? Not green, but blue. Light blue. The color of Chris. This is also why dark worlds created by Chris and the Night have the same lighting, while Susie's doesn't. It's Chris, but it's another Chris. But, hark, what is that I hear? Not the mewing of a cat, but the howling of a dog. Could it be? A new Chris? A new personality. If cats are associated with hell, perhaps another example is Mad Mew Mew aka Pink. Being puppeted by a demon-like personality rather than guided by a moral compass of an angel. A demon disregards the free will, but the angel recognizes it despite the occasional disagreement. A new Chris has potential to be different than the old one, to be an angel rather than a demon. And yet, whatever Chris ends up being, must be Chris's choice. The player can give their input, make known what they think is the best option for Chris to pursue, but if Chris is forced, they will run the opposite direction and become twice as much a son of hell as the old Chris. Perhaps the old Chris, Gaster, wanted to place someone else in hometown, someone else in the place of hero, so that they wouldn't make the same mistakes old Chris did. A vessel which the angel could make to their heart's content, someone who could save them from being forced in the place of Deltarune's demon. But one of the other entities, either Noel or friend, I'll say Noel given her frustration with being a Noel who had to do Noel things. Frustrated that she couldn't choose who she was, and perhaps frustrated that the angel was getting a choice she didn't all those years ago. She forces you to be a Chris who has to do Chris things, play in her new story, her Deltarune. Even if you find the weird route, it does not matter, she planned for that. There are differences between this world and the old one. What differences there are, we do not know. Likely, the night was something else. Perhaps, a certain man, a forgotten man, a problem that needed to be taken care of. Someone who needed to be replaced.